Hi, and welcome back to the channel. This is Echo Shack. My name is Eric, and today we're recording drums like it's 1970. So for this video, I'm going to break down a very specific drum mic setup that I found in a 1970 issue of Recording Engineer and Producer magazine. In this particular issue, they interview audio engineers from all over, asking them what their preferred drum mic setup is for recording sessions. So I found a lot of similarities between the different engineers. One is that they take a more minimal approach, right? They're recording on tape. They don't have as many tracks to work with. They're summing down most of the time, right? So they might have 6 mics perhaps on the drums, and that's getting summed down to maybe 2 or 3 channels. So they're not taking up as much space on the tape. So I thought the minimal setup was cool, and I figured I would try to recreate one with the gear that I have. I have some vintage mics, but my whole arsenal is not all vintage, so it's kind of a mix for this video. So the particular setup that I'm going to try to replicate with what I have involves using all dynamic mics except for the cymbals. And what's cool about this is they decided not to use overhead mics, and they're treating the overheads more like just cymbal mics, right? So they're close miking the cymbals, the crash, and the ride, and then it's just close dynamic mics on everything else. No bottom snare, just a snare top, and just one mic on the kick. So the mics that he was using for this back then was a Shure 546 for the kick, snare, and hi-hat. And then he was using EV RE15s for the toms. So I only have one RE15, and I don't have any 546s, but I know that they are similar to the SM57. So what we're using is we're going to use 57 for the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat. And then for the toms, I'm actually going to use these vintage Grundig mics that I have that actually were, I believe, made by Sennheiser. They're made in Germany, really cool mics. I got a great deal on them on eBay. Then for the cymbal mics, I'm using my Peluso P67s, which are basically a emulation or an inspiration from the Neumann U67, which is similar to what they would have used. And in this article, he was using U87s, I believe, for the cymbals. Okay, so here we are at the drum set. This particular kit is a made in Japan Pearl drum set from the late 1960s. And I've got my 70s Ludwig Acrolite snare drum. The cymbals are kind of, this is a new one. This is a Sabian HH Vanguard cymbal. Vintage set of Zildjian hi-hats and a vintage Zildjian crash as well. So pretty accurate, not too bad. Now you can see the overhead mics I've got set up just kind of as cymbal mics. You can see they're positioned similar to what is in the photograph of the magazine, where it's just going to catch the cymbal. There's going to be some bleed, obviously, but I guess the idea with the placement was to reject the sound from the drums close by. There's definitely bleed, but I'm just sort of following the photographs that I found. So here we've got the Grundig mics. This one is on the rack tom. Same mic is over on the floor tom. There you can see the floor tom mic placement. We've got the SM57 on the snare, SM57 on the hi-hat. And there we've got, actually it's an SM58 on the bass drum, but I ran out of 57s because one of them is having an issue. So close enough. So that's the mic setup for this. You can see I tried to get as close as I could with the photos. And basically, the idea here is like use what you have, you know. Vintage mics, unfortunately, the prices seem to keep going up and up. But you can find some deals on maybe mics that just aren't as popular. But if you look at these old magazines, you can find a lot of different models to try. Look on eBay. Sometimes you get lucky. All of these mics are running into my modified Soundcraft Ghost Console, and I'm just using the onboard preamps, no EQ, everything is flat. Let's check it out.